Hello, welcome to Quest 3, Module 3, Summary of Poetry and Expository Text. As you read both the poem and the article, identify the repeated connotations, words, ideas, and/or concepts. Be prepared to use them in summaries that include the main points from the beginning, middle, and end. Let's take a look at our poem. We're going to divide our poem into 3 sections. So we're looking at information to go in our summary from here, here, and here in stanzas 1, 2, and 3. We're going to read the poem together, and then we'll go back and highlight the repeated words because you usually notice them as you're reading, and it's better to do it after you've read it once than to try to understand what's being repeated as you go because you don't really know until you finish the whole piece. Let's begin. The One I Think of Now by Wesley McNair. At the end of my stepfather's life, when his anger was gone, and the saplings of his failed nursery had grown into trees, my newly feminist mother had him in the kitchen to pay for all those years he only did the carving. "You know where that is," she would say, as he looked for a knife to cut the cheese and a tray to serve it with, his apron wide as a dress above his work boots, confused as a girl. He is the one I think of now, lifting the tray for my family, the guests, until at last he comes to me, and I, no less confused, look down from his hurt eyes as if there were nothing between us except an arrangement of cheese and not this bafflement, these almost tender hands that once swung hammers and drove machines and insisted that I learn to be a man. Now we're ready to highlight the repeated connotations. Okay, so we look at the word end that is connected to gone and failed. Failed comes at the end of an attempt, and so all those words are connected and they have a negative connotation, a connotation of despair and of sadness. Let's take a look at the second stanza. One word, confused, is repeated later, and then there's a synonym that's used for bafflement and a synonym that's used for end, and that is last. So when we look at confused, we see that confused is repeated in the third stanza, and then again, the synonym for confused or confusion is bafflement. And it's acceptable to underline or to highlight or to include words that are synonymous to those repeated ideas, like we did in the first stanza. And then in terms of last, again, we get the feeling of despair and end, hopelessness. So let's talk about what this would look like in a summary of beginning, middle, and end. So if we were to put this together, it would read, the speaker's stepfather's role as the man of the house has come to an end. When he assumes domestic duties, the stepfather is confused. The speaker is also confused by his stepfather's newly enforced identity. Now we're ready to read the expository text. I will allow you to read the article by pausing while the section that you need is in frame. I will switch to the second section and you will pause again so that you may finish reading the article. At the end, I'll resume the discussion of the highlighted words and phrases in addition to the summary of beginning, middle, and end. Section 1. Please pause and read. Resume when you are ready. Section 2. Please pause and read. Resume when you are finished. Section 3. Pause and read. Resume when you are finished. The final paragraph. Pause. Resume when you are finished. Let's review our article to determine what important words, concepts, ideas, and etc. we need to include in our summary. First, we have to decide, because this is a longer text than the poem, what will we consider the beginning, what will we consider the middle, and what will we consider the end? Well, when you look at the text, it's not quite evenly divided, but you could use the beginning here along with the section entitled Stuff It and consider that the beginning. So that's what we'll do. And that's what you'll need to do when you're working on your own. You're going to have to decide what is the beginning, what is the middle, and what is the end in proportion to the length of the text. Okay? So when we begin the middle, we're looking at the Express It section, and at the end of the Express It section, we'll come to the end, or we'll call that the third section or the end of the article. Okay, so now we're ready to review the ideas. First, you'll notice that anger is repeated many times. Angry is also repeated. Also, emotional response is repeated. In addition to that, in our first section, or in the beginning of the article, consequences is repeated. Also, hide it, stuffing anger inside, which is synonymous with hiding it, hide their anger, etc. Hide their anger again, and more angrier, anger. So we know that the summary of the beginning of our article will relate to anger, emotion, and hiding it. Okay, let's take a look at the second section. Express it. Again, we see more anger, expressing, release of emotion, venting, which is synonymous with releasing, expressing anger, venting, catharsis, which means letting go and releasing, and then venting. Let's look at this section. There's more venting and angry. Okay, so we know that our summary is going to definitely include, again, anger, but we're going to add now to anger, venting. Okay, so we're going to formulate that into a complete idea that represents the author's main idea. Finally, we're looking at the get rid of it. The get rid of it portion has repetition with anger, angry, angered, angry. Also with getting rid of or detaching, and those being somewhat synonymous. And again, we have expressing, and get rid of again. So we know that in the conclusion or in the end of our summary, we're going to say something about getting rid of or letting go of or detaching from. Okay, I think we're ready to complete the summary. If we put the ideas together from the beginning, middle, and end, we have a precise, concise summary that reads, anger is an emotional response that can be addressed by hiding it. Expressing anger by venting is another way to deal with emotion. Coping with anger may require one to detach himself from the factor that angers him. Now you're ready to complete the summary practice on your own with the poem and expository text. Thank you for your time and good luck.